Today, we're diving into the Assertiveness Workbook to tackle a problem that, let's be honest, pretty much all of us face. How do you speak your mind without either starting a war or just completely disappearing into the background? If that question hits home, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It's that awful feeling, right? You're stuck between being a total doormat or having to come out swinging like a steamroller just to feel heard. And this really gets to the heart of the problem. On one hand, you have this deep fear of being invisible, of your own needs and thoughts just not mattering. But on the other hand, you're worried about trampling all over everyone else to make your point. It honestly feels like there's no way to win. And yeah, this is exactly why both of those extremes just don't work. The workbook is super clear on this. If you go the passive route and try to extinguish the self, you just end up full of resentment and feeling powerless. But if you swing the other way and trample on others, you're left angry, isolated, and feeling like your life is spinning out of control. Both are total dead ends. Okay, so if the extremes are out, how in the world do we find a better way? Well, it all starts with understanding our own go-to patterns. The workbook gives us this really powerful framework with 4 basic communication styles that help us see exactly what we're doing. Now, this next point is absolutely crucial. These are behaviors, not who you are as a person. You aren't a passive person. You might just be using a passive style in certain situations. And that distinction is so important because a behavior is something you have the power to change. To make this real, let's talk about a woman from the book named Nadia. Her story is such a classic example of the passive style. She's running on empty, trying to please everyone around her, and she's completely bought into the idea that their happiness and even their disappointment is all on her. Does any of that sound a little familiar? So this table kind of lays it all out for us. You've got the passive style, like Nadia, which comes from believing that other people are more important. Then you have the opposite, the aggressive style, where the goal is just to win. Then there's that tricky one, passive-aggressive, where you feel powerless, so you try to get even indirectly. And then there's assertive, which is built on this radical idea that we both have rights. As you look at this, which one feels like your default setting? All right, so we've seen the problems, we've diagnosed the patterns. Let's talk about the solution. And I'll tell you right now, it is not about finding some mushy middle ground. It's about a complete upgrade to how you communicate. You know, a lot of us have this question floating in our heads. We worry that if we stop being so passive, we're just going to flip the switch and become a total jerk. We see assertiveness as just less of 2 bad things. But that's where we get it all wrong. The workbook makes it clear. Assertiveness is not a point on the line between passive and aggressive. It's on a whole other level. It's an elevated style that plays by a completely different and, frankly, better set of rules. And this quote from the book just nails it. The real goal is to fully show up as yourself, your flawed, messy human self. And in doing so, you make it safe for the other person to show up too. It's about respecting our shared humanity. And look, the benefits here are huge. We're talking about real changes in your life. You get to keep your self-respect without turning into a bully. Your stress levels go way down because you're actually dealing with things instead of letting them boil over. Your relationships get stronger because they're built on truth. You're not stuck in the past or worried about the future. You are finally in the driver's seat of your own life. Okay, let's get super practical for a second, because one of the most basic, and for a lot of us, the absolutely hardest, assertive skills to learn is how to just say no. The book has this incredible metaphor for this. It says if you can't say no, you're not just a nice person, you're a genie. And once people figure out that you'll grant every single wish, every request, they literally will not be able to stop themselves from asking for more. It is a one-way ticket to burnout. So what does a good, solid, assertive no actually sound like? Well, it's clear, it's calm, and it's direct. It's not wrapped up in a 5-minute apology or a long, complicated excuse. And it's definitely not mean. It's just a simple, clear boundary. And the workbook gives us 4 simple steps to do this. 1, keep it simple. No, I can't is a complete sentence. 2, don't over-apologize. You're not doing anything wrong. 3, if they push back, just calmly repeat your no. But number 4, this is the real game changer. Accept that the other person might be disappointed. They have a right to their feelings, and that's okay. You aren't responsible for managing their emotions. So we've gone through a lot of theory, but how do we take this out of our heads and actually put it into practice in the real world? What does this really look like? Let's go back to Nadia for a second. When she started being more assertive, asking her husband for help, setting boundaries with her son,
It wasn't all sunshine and rainbows at first. The book says her family went through a period of tension. But then something incredible happened. They actually started getting along better than they ever had before. And she felt like she was finally getting her own life back.
And this, right here, is the absolute bedrock of the whole idea. You are in charge of your behavior. Other people are in charge of theirs. That's it. Being assertive is just about clearly and respectfully honoring that basic boundary between human beings. So, where do you go from here? Look, becoming more assertive isn't about some massive, scary personality overhaul. It's about taking one small step and then another. So, I want to leave you with this really simple question from the workbook. What is one small, reasonable request you could make today? That's it. That's your first step.